and welcome to this forum for Clarkdale mayoral candidates on the July 30th primary election ballot and hosted by the Greater Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters of Northern Arizona. My name is Mary Chaquin, and I am a member of the League and your moderator for this evening. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, envisions a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The League of Women Voters is an organization fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and practice. Tonight's forum is being videotaped by the Verde Independent for broadcasting on YouTube and other social media outlets. Thank you, Vito. The purpose of this forum is to hear from the candidates on why they want to be Clarkdale's mayor. It is also an opportunity for candidates to answer questions submitted by the voters to the Chamber of Commerce for this forum. The goal of the forum is fairness, civility, and engagement. I would like to once again introduce our timekeeper, Janet Kissinger, who has 3 signs, a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and a stop sign. And once she holds up the stop sign, candidates will need to finish the sentence of their comments. Once again, the forum is in 3 parts. Part 1 is opening remarks, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question, and then they will have 2 minutes to answer a question from the League of Women Voters that they did receive ahead of time. Part 2, the Chamber solicited questions from the public prior to the forum. These questions have been compiled and organized for the moderator to ask at the forum. We received far more questions than time allowed this evening. Please contact candidates directly if your question is not answered. And then we have closing remarks, and candidates will have 1 minute for those remarks. As we get started, I also want to go over the guidelines for this forum. The moderator's role is to manage the forum fairly for the candidates and the audience with the goal of keeping the discussion moving forward. We ask 4 things of the candidates: be respectful of each other's point of view, speak your mind freely, do not engage in personal attacks, and do not interrupt one another. The audience is asked to refrain from applauding or in any way demonstrating support or non-support for the candidates and their comments. Time limits on responses to questions will be strictly observed. The moderator will have the responsibility for enforcing those time limits. If these guidelines are not adhered to by the candidates and the audience, the moderator will adjourn the forum. Now I would like to introduce the candidates running for Clarkdale Mayor. In alphabetical order, they are Cynthia Mala and Robin Prudhomme-Bauer. The candidates will speak in an order drawn prior to the forum and will rotate ordering the answer of the questions. Closing statements will be done in reverse order of the opening statements. We will now begin opening statements. Cynthia will be first on the opening statement. She will be given 2 minutes to introduce herself to the audience and address. When did you move to the community and why? Why are you running for office and why are you the best candidate? And what is your experience serving in public office in the municipality, as a volunteer, and in your career that prepares you to serve in this position? If you are an incumbent, what was your experience prior to being elected? Cynthia.
Thank you, Chamber of Commerce and League of Women Voters, for hosting this forum.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. I'm Cynthia Mala. I've lived in Clarkdale for 17 years. I moved here because I was born in West Texas and I miss the desert. And I grew up in California. So Arizona was kind of a compromise between here and Texas because my family is still in California. I'm the mother of 2 grown sons, grandmother of 3. They're absolutely the best thing that's ever happened to me. Because of them, acutely aware of how important it is to leave a viable future for them. I recently retired from a 43-year career in nursing. I realize that a background in nursing is not typical for an elected official. I've spent my life so far nurturing people, not nurturing a political career. However, I have skills learned over many decades that are applicable to being an effective mayor. I spent 4 years of my career as a clinical supervisor for a large nonprofit home care and hospice in Northern California. I managed a staff of 50. I was responsible for the day-to-day functioning of the hospice division at my branch. However, most of my career I spent at the bedside doing direct patient care and mentoring new nurses. I worked at Verde Valley Medical Center for 16 years. The last 3 years, arguably the most difficult, was caring for our community members during the pandemic. Decades of practice have taught me some important skills that are essential for mayors to have, such as how to listen carefully to all sides of an issue, how to explain complex issues clearly, how to lead, and also how to function as a member of a team. I served from 2017 to 2022 on Clarkdale's Parks and Recreation Commission. And in 2018, I brought the problem of the deteriorating. Do I need to stop?
You can finish your sentence.
Okay, the deteriorating Selma Mongini and Caballero parks to the commission.
Thank you. Robin?
Yes, good evening, and thank you all for coming here to this candidates forum. I have been privileged to be a resident and a business owner in Clarkdale for over 27 years. My husband, Bud, and I and our dog, Denali, love being a part of this friendly, engaging community. We chose Clarkdale because of family and because it was a warm, charming, and small town that welcomed us. I am completing my first term as mayor and look forward to being your mayor for another 4 years. I have also served on the Planning Commission, Board of Adjustments, Design Review, and currently I serve on the Executive Committee of the League of Cities and Towns. My professional background is in organization management, project coordination and management, and as an owner of my family's manufacturing and construction business. I have been an active member in several organizations and groups, the Clarkdale Downtown Business Alliance, Made in Clarkdale, the Clarkdale Foundation. I am a lifelong member of the League of Women Voters and co-founder and past chairperson of the Verde Valley Regional Economic Organization. I see Clarkdale as a thriving, vibrant, prosperous, and welcoming town. A town that values our small town spirit, our history, and our sense of place. A town that respects the residents, protects the Verde River, and supports and promotes our businesses in Clarkdale. This is my vision. I am proud to be your mayor and to be part of a very dedicated team of council members and staff who together have accomplished much over my first term. The results of our shared strategic plan, focused budgets, and capital improvement plan show how much we have invested valuable tax dollars in our town. I am running for mayor again so we can continue our work of investing in our town's vibrant future. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is 2 minutes, and it is from the League of Women Voters. Robin, you will be first to answer this question. As the Verde Valley continues to grow, what does growth look like to you in Clarkdale? Specifically, tell us what you plan to do in your elected role.
Thank you for that question. Clarkdale's history is based on sound planning for growth. Clarkdale was founded as a master plan community where residents could work, live, and play. Over the past 25 plus years, Clarkdale has doubled in population to 5,000, but that's only been about 100 people a year. At the height of our smelter town history, the population of Clarkdale was around 5,000, but in a much smaller area. And in the 70s, Clarkdale's population was down to 750. Our growth has not been fast. I see Clarkdale's growth and development as complementary to Clarkdale's history by providing opportunities for viable employment and housing for its residents. I value our welcoming sense of community and our heritage as a smelter town, and our commitment to protect our natural environment. To me, these are the cornerstones of our general plan. The plan that was adopted in 21 for the 4th time gives us a solid roadmap for sustainable residential, commercial, and light industrial growth. It represents our commitment to have a town that is vibrant while respecting our roots as a town where people call Clarkdale home. Planning for growth is outlined in our general plan. It is our town's orderly and efficient growth. Every new development proposal or planning project is evaluated on how it is related to our general plan. The plan lays out the foundation of how the town of Clarkdale will grow for the next 10 years. I've been proud to have been actively engaged in almost 3 out of 4 of the general plans that have been adopted here in Clarkdale. So this is what growth looks like to me, and I use it in my deliberations and my decision-making in my role as mayor.
Thank you. Cynthia?
I'm running for mayor because recently I've become very concerned about Clarkdale's future. In 2023, I started a petition to stop the demolition and replication of the Clarkdale Historic Bandstand. We obtained over 1,000 signatures. The bandstand will soon be restored properly and will remain a historic structure. There's a saying that a healthy town should survive on locals and thrive on tourists. Clarkdale is on the cusp of expanding growth. The danger is rapid growth, not controlled by the citizens of Clarkdale. The result would be what many of us have already seen in small towns: gentrification, inappropriate subdivisions, a historic district that's taken over by the tourist trade or has not been preserved. Housing, also another thing that happens with gentrification is housing that's priced out of the reach of the working people that live here now and their children. Clarkdale is unique in that right now its history is still physically present. It's present in our historic buildings and the people who are still here, whose families have been here for generations. Its wealth is its historic character and its a unique history. Keeping Clarkdale's character and uniqueness will require active engagement by the citizenry in determining our town's future, a governing body that is listening to, transparent to, and responsive to the citizenry. Collaboration and respectful communication and trust between the town's citizens and their governing body is essential, because otherwise the pressure to yield to influences with a lot of capital behind them will be very difficult to resist, and what is unique about Clarkdale would probably be lost in just a few years. I, for one, do not want to see that happen, and as mayor, I would not let that happen.
Thank you. The next question is 1.5 minutes, and Cynthia, you'll be up first. And the question is, what are the top 3 issues facing Clarkdale in the next 2 years, and how would you meet these challenges? Please be specific, and what resources might be needed to address the issues?
So I think one important issue is historic preservation. Our historic buildings are valuable not only historically, but financially. The historic buildings in the downtown need to be finished. The owners of those buildings need to have as much assistance as possible in getting that done. I think that we need a historic preservation ordinance. The one that we've been working on needs some more work. However, there is a plan for a work session with the owners of the historic buildings and the Historic Preservation Commission. And I think SHPO should also be involved in that conversation as well. The reason for that is that I think we need a certified local government designation, like 30 other towns in this in Arizona, that would allow the owners of the historic buildings to access grants and other resources to help them with their renovations. And then there's the infrastructure, and the third thing is commerce, bringing commerce into other areas of Clarkdale, besides helping getting business into the downtown businesses. If I have a little more time. Oh, dang.
Thank you, Cynthia. Robin?
Okay.
It's hard to pick 3 top issues. There's so many projects we have underway. So I sort of broke them up into 2 categories: short-term and long-term over the next 3 years. I think short-term, we need to find an amicable solution with Cottonwood over the airport noise situation. Cottonwood's on their flight training activities, and I think we can do that. We've been working with many partners on that, and I think a solution we can come up with. I'd like to see Selma Mangini Park completed and open. I think that will happen. That's short term. And have the buildings in our historic downtown open and occupied with new businesses. And I do believe that we need a historic preservation ordinance that is voluntary. That's collaboration between all of us, our Historic Preservation Commission, the council, and our staff, and our businesses, excuse me. Long term, complete our water and wastewater master plan and see some key projects get underway. We're in the process of doing that now. Complete and design our new bridge to the industrial area and begin that construction. And complete the affordable housing plan and begin to implement some of the suggestions of that. Those are my 3 big long-term over the next 3 years.
Thank you. The next question is 1 minute. It's on communication, and Robin, you're up first. How does the town of Clarkdale currently communicate with the public? And what should be the priorities for improving communication, transparency, and public engagement in the future? What presence would you maintain as a member of the Clarkdale Council?
Thank you for that question. Communication is always a difficult one because we can never communicate enough. But I think we've done an incredible job of doing that in Clarkdale. I know we can do more. I think you heard about many things that from the council members of what we're doing, small talk, weekly updates, expanded website, more social media. But we also are engaging people in working groups around really critical issues for Clarkdale. Things like tourism, things like the working group on 89A, things like airport noise. We're actively involved with that. So those are ways to engage people in our community, and we have, because they're made up of people from the community. We're also doing focus groups and more open houses. I think we can do more of that. And we will launch again this year another community survey, which is really important to get feedback and input from our residents.
Thank you. Cynthia?
Could you repeat the question?
Of course. And could you move the microphone a little closer, please? Thank you. How does the town of Clarkdale currently communicate with the public? And what should be the priorities for improving communication, transparency, and public engagement in the future? And what presence would you maintain as a member of the Clarkdale Council?
So I think there's been improvements in the communication with the public, especially since the issue of the bandstand came up. The newsletter and the weekly emails that go out to folks, I think that is very helpful. I think there's room for improvement. The website is sometimes a little clunky, especially for someone, for an elderly person, for instance, that isn't technologically knowledgeable. And there are a lot of elderly in our community, and they need to be considered. I also think that when you hear from, and I've heard this from citizens, that they feel like they're not being communicated to, and that's the time to stop and take a pause and look at what's working and what's not, and get creative and see what else you can do to reach out to citizens, because it's very important that people know what's going on, and it's very important that they feel that they are involved in the process.
Thank you. The next question is 2 minutes. Cynthia, you'll be up first. And it's on partnerships and collaboration. Many of the town's issues involve the participation of outside entities and organizations. What are the top 3 most critical partners and why? And how will you navigate building stronger partnerships with those 3 entities?
Okay, so I still have a lot to learn. So I don't know all of the entities that the town is involved with now, but offhand, I would say one partnership that's very important is the one with Cottonwood, especially in regards to the noise from the airport. It's kind of on a pause right now because there's no airport management. The town council in Cottonwood has had a lot of problems that have inhibited the airport noise. Secondly, Yavapai College, the Verde Valley pays a lot of property taxes, and that property taxes doesn't come back to our community. And so we need to partner better with Yavapai College to see what we can bring back to our valley. It's very important for our economy. It's important for a stream of skilled workers. So that's one important partner. And I thought I had another one in mind. I can't remember what it is now. So, NACOG. So recently, Meals on Wheels program has gotten has had some pretty severe cuts. NACOG was cut back by 30%, which affected our local Meals on Wheels program. They're having cutbacks of 20%. I'll finish my sentence. This is affecting the elderly in our community. So I don't know how we didn't pick that up because we're involved with NACOG, but it would be nice if Clarkdale was able to help with Meals on Wheels.
Thank you. Robin?
Could you repeat the question, Mary, please?
Sure. Many of the town's issues involve the participation of outside entities and organizations. What are the top 3 most critical partners and why? And how will you strengthen those partnerships?
That's a huge question, and it's one that I absolutely love. First, our partnership is with our cities throughout the Verde Valley. It's very critical that all 5 of us work very, very closely together because our issues interrelate, whether it's transportation, whether it's water, whether it's dealing with airport noise or whatever. We need to work with each other. We meet every 2 weeks, the mayors and managers, to talk about many of these issues. So that's a critical partner to us. I think another critical partner is our state representatives. Getting to know them, having them know about us and what are our issues. When we went and got them, started talking about a bridge into Bitter Creek, it was critical. And yes, it was led by a former council member, but we were all involved with talking with our representatives and bringing a plan forward to get that money for Clarkdale. And our legislators carried the bills that got us that money. So it was important that we have connection with them. That's very important. I think our third critical partner, of course, is our federal government and our representatives. We are in constant contact with the field office for Senator Kelly's office on many of our major grants that we're working on. Actually, they kind of call us up and say, here's a grant opportunity, and we look to see if it fits within our strategic plan, and we take that opportunity to go for it. So getting to know all of these representatives in our Verde Valley, at the state level, and at the federal level are, I think, the most critical partners for us.
Thank you. Robin, you'll be up next for this question. It's 1 minute, and it's on local control. We have seen a growing trend at the state level to disempower local governments and tie our hands regarding things like short-term rentals, cellular towers, local zoning, local sales taxes, and more. What do you feel is the best way to handle this going forward?
When I became mayor, one of the first things I wanted to do was be on the executive committee for the League of Cities and Towns, and I was appointed to do so. So being there on that committee, I am aware of all the critical pieces of legislation that we're following that has to do with local control or revenue sources or things like that. So being on that, I actively participate in those discussions on those key pieces of legislation. I also, every Monday during legislative session, I'm on the legislative call, so we highlight which bills we're following and the calls to action. So I am immediately contacting our legislators where we stand on those bills and making sure they know where Clarkdale stands on the critical bills. It's thank you.
Cynthia.
You need that?
I'm done. I got the stop sign.
So I agree with the mayor that it's important to work with the state legislature and keep track of what is going on there. There are bills that have been enacted in Arizona that are negatively affecting local towns. One of them is Prop 207, which was passed in 2006, and it inhibits the town in terms of creating ordinances and creating zoning, and so the League of Cities, or the League of Towns, I guess, is one way to keep in touch with that, keep in touch with the state legislature, and also fostering good relationships with our representatives in Phoenix.
Great, thank you. And you'll be up again, Cynthia. This is a 1-minute question. It's on housing. Affordable housing is a critical issue here as in other communities. How do you see your role in helping Clarkdale succeed in attaining this goal?
So critical housing is a problem everywhere. The median household income in this area is about $40,000, and which is about $3,300 a month, and the median rent in this area is $1,800. So do the math. Your housing is supposed to be a third of your budget. It's not manageable for many, many people. So there are a lot of different ways to address affordable housing, and I think that's something we need to look very carefully at. One is land leases, another is requiring any developers to develop, to have some of a certain percentage of their projects affordable housing. Another way that some towns are doing in some places is enabling private owners to build ADUs on their private property as another source of housing.
Thank you. Robin?
Oh, housing. It's been a big issue for us for many, many, many years. We are currently in the region, somewhere in the range of about 3,700 units short of the kind of housing for the people who want to live and work here. That's pretty incredible. Clarkdale is going to be completing an affordable housing study. We need to get that done because I think that'll give us a good roadmap of ways to look at how the housing we need, for the diversity of housing we need for everybody who wants to live, work, and play here, because that's our roots. It's not an easy issue. I think when that study comes out, we need to have some community discussions about that and be real about the type of town we want to be. I believe in our roots as a town where everybody could live, work, and play here. So we need to have that discussion as soon as that study comes out, so we're making those decisions together.
Thank you. The next question is a 1.5 minutes. It's on the general plan. Robin, you're up. What is your familiarity with Clarkdale's current general plan? Did you participate in the plan development? And critical, what topics do you feel are the most important to address?
the general plan is our guide for everything we do. Did I participate? I didn't directly participate in this one, other than I got a chance to read every section of it, comment on it, and eventually vote on it. I also participated in the 2 previous general plans, both as chair of the Planning Commission and a member of the general plan committees. This is extremely important. The 3 areas that I think I would like to focus on are water, housing, and business development. I think those are the 3 critical areas within the general plan for us to look at. We just talked about housing. Water, we have to build a redundant system. We have a pretty good handle on the source of water we have here, or the amount of water we have through the work we've done over the number of years. But we need to build a redundant system with a new well, new tank. We need to look seriously at our wastewater system and expand it. We only have 1,500 users on it. It's a flat system. That's why it's old and very hard to take care of. So we need to expand that. And on business development, we need to look at the things we're doing around business development, which is tourism marketing. We've engaged, I'll get to that later. Thank you.
Cynthia?
So I wasn't involved in developing the general plan. I was still working at Verde Valley Medical Center and in the midst of a pandemic. And I'll admit I have not read it carefully. I have looked at the strategic plan and I have read the budget, and I see how all those things fit together. The general plan is something that I'm going to have to learn more about. So I can't really identify which specific things because I obviously don't have it on the top of my head what they are. So.
Okay, thank you. Cynthia, you're up next for the question. It's a minute and a half, and it's on the council manager roles. What is your understanding of the council manager form of government? What is the council's role in supporting the success of the town manager? And what would be your role in the daily operations of the town?
Okay, my understanding of the council administration form of government is that the council and the mayor set the priorities, and the administration carries those out. They're separate, and the least that things cross over that separation, the better. I think that the role of the council is to encourage and show appreciation for the administration, because they are the ones that do the work. They are the ones that do the feet on the ground. They're the ones that have the skills in terms of implementing the policies of the town council.
Thank you. Robin?
The town council manager form of government is very, very specific. The role of the council is, as our elected people, all of you have elected us, so we're your voice. And if you need to tell us what that voice is sometimes, but that's why we're elected in a representative form of government. The council hires and oversees and works directly with our town manager on strategic planning, on budgeting, on carrying out the policies and procedures of the organization. And the manager runs the day-to-day operation. She takes care of her staff, she builds the team, and she makes sure that the day-to-day operations have been told to the council, so we know what's going on. We get regularly informed every week of what the activities are that are happening in staff, so we know that the kind of projects, policies, and items that come before council have been worked on and what they mean. So it's yes, there's a clear separation, but we also have to work as a team very much on how we carry out the work of Clarkdale.
Thank you. The next question is 1 minute, and it's on budgeting. Robin, you're up first. What is the biggest challenge that Clarkdale faces as it relates to budgeting, and how would you address that challenge?
Well, the outward challenge to the budget is our state legislature. Shared revenues, keeping them at the level they are today and not seeing them decrease, because that's a good part of our budget. And also that they don't take away taxes that impact our budget, like the residential sales tax. That was huge. Internally, the budget, once we set the budget, it's set. We can't change it. We can't amend it. So everything has to be in that budget for us to do something. And so it looks like a big budget, $44 million or $43 million, but $21 million are grants that we hope to bring in for the projects that are identified in our strategic plan. And also to have contingencies for when we have an emergency. I think Councilmember Babbitt talked about the line, the wastewater line under the park. That's the kind of money we have to have in our budget.
Thank you. Cynthia.
I think the most difficult thing about the budget is that you can't change it once it's accepted. And Clarkdale has a lot of infrastructure that is deteriorating, particularly the sewer system. And it's really hard, I think, I think the town manager does a great job of moving things around when something bad happens, but I wouldn't want her job. I think that's probably the biggest problem with Clarkdale, is that bad things can happen, maybe more so than other towns because of our aging infrastructure.
Thank you. The next question is 1.5 minutes, and it's on the strategic plan. Clarkdale reviews its strategic plan annually. What elements of the plan resonate with you most? What is your commitment to strategic planning for the community going forward?
Strategic planning.
Oh, Robin, Cynthia.
Excuse me.
Oh, do I answer?
Please.
Okay. So I know that the strategic plan has 6 different areas, and there's various ways of addressing those areas. Frankly, I don't remember what all of them are right now. This is something I will have to learn. For me, historic preservation is probably one of the most important things. Commerce is the next important thing. So, sorry, I can't give a more detailed answer to that.
Robin.
As you know, I wanted to answer that question earlier, so I'm sorry I jumped in, Cynthia. I didn't mean to. Strategic plan is everything. It is our guide, along with, and it comes out of the general plan, but it's what we live by day to day for this town. It's our budget is built off of that, and our work product is built off of that. So it directs everybody for where we go. All 6 elements are very important to it. And how do we handle those 6 elements? We prioritize within them. So yes, there might be 26 items in this one and 26 items in that one, but each one of them are prioritized as the most important to the least important. So we work on the top ones, and when those are done, then we keep moving on down the list. We've been able to accomplish a lot. So I think I just wanted to show you that master plan list. Here it is. Everything, and this is just one goal. And you notice those green areas? That's the completion rate. We complete these plans. They do not sit on the shelf. We work on them every single day in this town, and the town is kept up to date on it. Strategic planning, budgeting, and our capital improvement plan are the most important things that guide us for an effective town.
Thank you. And Robin, this one you will be up first. You get 1.5 minutes. It's on regional endeavors. Work together in regional and statewide collaborations. Endeavors such as emergency services, regional economic development, transportation, tourism marketing, outdoor recreation, etc. What role should Clarkdale, council members, and the mayor have in regional initiatives, and what collaborative actions would you support?
Regional initiatives, as I said in a previous question, being part of a region is so important to us. So we're involved currently, as I said, the mayors and managers in the region meet every 2 weeks. We talk about things like healthcare with the executive director of NAH, or we talk with the Forest Service. Those are big regional issues for all of us. Currently, we're working on regional initiatives such as Central Dispatch. We don't have that. That's being led by the county, and we're actively involved. Our staff is involved in that. I sit on Verde Front, which deals with a lot of outdoor recreational stuff. That's an important one because we get to hear what's going on in each one of the communities and find ways to maybe partner on things. So being involved regionally is extremely important. And another bigger regional one that is water. And let me talk very quickly about the water settlement with the Yavapai Apache Nation. We have been involved in that. That's a very critical document we will be signing hopefully next week if all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. That will set the framework for regional discussions about water. It's a fabulous thing, and that's going to be number one on our list.
Thank you. Cynthia?
So, as someone who has not been a politician, it's hard for me to answer this question and a lot of other questions. These are all things I still need to learn if I'm elected mayor. Obviously, it's very important that Clarkdale is involved in creating connections and partnerships within the region that we live. And other than that, there's not a whole lot I can say about that except that, these are things that I would need to learn and I can learn. So.
Okay, thank you. The next question is 1.5 minutes. It's on water. Cynthia, you'll be first. Water is an important resource in Arizona. Clarkdale has worked on projects designed to preserve the Verde River. Talk about your concerns regarding priorities around water resources, particularly regarding growth in the area. How would you reduce or reuse water? What do you feel is Clarkdale's biggest challenge as it relates to water and the sewer systems?
Water is always a big problem in the West, particularly in the desert. I think there are towns that we could be more creative in terms of how we can help the citizens save water. A lot of towns have, most of the water that's used in a household is outside. Really the only rule we have about how people use water is you can only water 3 days a week. I question whether or not that's actually saves water. Other towns do things like they'll fund programs with grants that will provide desert adapted plants, mulch, a simple drip system, and will help people convert their lawns and their landscaping that uses a lot of water to something that's less. And sometimes towns also, help provide homeowners with things like rain barrels, ways of water harvesting. I just think there's a lot more that we could do in that area than we are doing now.
Thank you. Robin?
I didn't know what I didn't know when I became mayor 4 years ago around water, but I've learned a lot since then. And we need a redundant system. We absolutely do. When we had a well pump go down a couple years ago, we found out very quickly that our capacity to get water to everybody in Clarkdale was quite limited, and we had to open and interconnect with Cottonwood to make sure we had enough water. So that really has driven our discussion to drill a new well and build a new tank, so we have a redundant system and enough supply for all of us in Clarkdale. We're doing a comprehensive maintenance and upgrading plan of our wastewater system. Absolutely, it's a challenge. We don't have $20 or $30 million to do what needs to be done for that system. So we have to be careful and repair the bad lines as we can and raise the dollars for those. We have to look at expanding our water and wastewater off to the areas that are on septic. There are over 1,000 to 1,200 households not in the sewer system. We need to bring them in the sewer system. Conservation. We do a great job in Clarkdale. 75 gallons per day per household is about what we use. That is extremely water conservation minded town of Clarkdale. Yes, we can do more.
Thank you. Robin, you're up next on this question, and it relates to advocacy. Should you be elected, how would you define your role in state and federal advocacy? It's 1 minute.
Well, I think I told you that a little bit earlier. I sit on the executive committee of the League of Cities and Towns, and I advocate for the critical issues for not just for Clarkdale, but for all municipalities throughout the state. And that is ensuring that we have adequate revenues from the state, that they don't overreach into our communities, which they continue to do, like the short-term rentals, and that will be continuing to come back up. I also advocate for the projects that we are applying for at both the state and national level. I have discussions with our legislators and their representatives about those projects because I know how critical they are. That's advocacy, is working for Clarkdale and the things that will make sure that we are a vibrant, stable, and flourishing town.
Cynthia?
So it's important that we keep in contact with our state representatives and develop relationships with them. One of the things that was beneficial for Clarkdale a couple of years ago was the Bitter Creek Bridge project. Because of the relationships that the town had with our legislatures, they were able to obtain money for that project through appropriation when they weren't able to get when they weren't able to get grants. And that was because of the relationships between the town and our legislatures.
Thank you. Cynthia, you'll be up next on this. It's on zoning. If you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would it be and why?
Well, I really want to see a historic preservation ordinance, one that works for everyone, for the town, the owners. I would like for our historic buildings to have more protection. I wonder if it might be beneficial to change some of the zoning up along 89A so that there would be room and a place for a grocery store. So that's one thing I would like to look at.
Thank you. Robin?
Zoning. I think you heard before 89A taking the overlay away and is the best thing for us to really use that corridor, which is commercially zoned, for the services we want. And yes, a grocery store can fit on 89A when we do that. So I don't see a problem there. It's just a matter of recruiting for that. I think we need to understand that underlying zoning is also private property rights. So we have to kind of balance the two. I'm not sure I would change any zoning, but I think we have to be realistic in understanding the balance between zoning and the people, our entities who own those lands, and how best they can be developed. There is flexibility in our general plan on zoning. We can look at different parcels of land differently, and we should be open to be able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin, you're up next. This is 1 minute, and it's historic preservation. The architecture in historic Clarkdale is important to the history and the atmosphere that is our historic town. Share your thoughts regarding how best to approach preserving our historic buildings. Do you believe a historic preservation ordinance is necessary, or is being on the historic register enough? Robin.
Our historic downtown, our historic district is extremely important. It is the heart of our town. It represents our history. It represents who we are. I'll be honest, I was not sure we needed an ordinance. I do think we do need one. We need good guidelines for how we preserve what is the spirit and the character of our historic downtown. But it needs to be voluntary, absolutely voluntary. We need to work closely with those businesses to ensure that what happens there, it will make it viable for them to either have a business there or to be able to lease it out, so that we can have successful businesses downtown.
Cynthia.
I think that's it.
So one of the things that we discovered when we were going through the bandstand issue is that when a structure is on the historic registry of historic places, that does not protect it. The vote to demolish and replace it was done on May 7th. The notice to proceed was sent to the contractor less than 2 weeks later. The contractor could have come in the next day and taken it down. The only reason it didn't happen is because he couldn't put it on a schedule. So that was pretty frightening. The owners of the downtown buildings love those buildings. They've taken great care of them. I'm not worried about any of them tearing down their buildings. But I'm thinking of the future. In the past, it almost happened. Transylvania was going to tear down all those buildings, and they could have totally done it without anybody stopping them. So,
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
The next question is 1.5 minutes, and it's on revenue generation, and Cynthia, you'll be first. The town of Clarkdale runs smoothly, and this is in part due to the large group of volunteers who staff many events and town functions. However, there is no substitute for town revenue. The main revenue source by far is sales tax. The future growth of Clarkdale's services and events lifestyle is closely linked to taxable sales. How do you propose to increase revenues in Clarkdale? And do you have a plan for adding retail business?
Yes, first of all, shop online. we get those sales tax for people that shop online, and I was surprised to see how much sales tax we get just from people shopping on Amazon. As far as retail, the town manager has already brought in Retail Resources. I think that's the name of the company. They specialize in finding retail opportunities for small towns like us and downtown revitalization. They've already brought forth some possible businesses, and they haven't been quite right. But I think that needs to continue, and we need to find businesses that are compatible to this town. We certainly don't want another dollar store or something like that. But
Thank you. Robin?
Revenue generation is critical for our future in Clarkdale, because we can't count on state shared revenues forever. And so we do have to build our commercial base. Yes, shop online is absolutely wonderful, but it's not going to fill the gap. So we actively engaged a company called Retail Strategies to build out our profile for what is possible in Clarkdale. And actually quite a bit is possible in Clarkdale. And I'm proud to be able to work with that team to look at the opportunities of businesses that might want to come here. Getting our supporting our businesses downtown, getting those buildings rehabbed, and getting businesses in there is absolutely important because that will spur growth. But let's be real. How is it going to happen real easily for us? Cottonwood is almost built out on 89A. So the pressure of building commercial is going to come up 89A. So it's already beginning to happen. Also with Milwaukee Inn opening up, we'll see some other businesses being very interested in coming on Broadway because there is some commercial land on that one. So all of this needs to work together. We need to actively look at the businesses who want to come here and say, this is what we want, and encourage them to come, and we can do it.
Okay, and this will be our last question before closing statements. Robin, you'll be first, and it's on accomplishments. Which action as a member of the council or as a candidate have you seen as the biggest accomplishment over the last 2 years in Clarkdale?
There's so many. Okay, the first thing is hiring an absolute professional town manager. She is absolutely top rate. She has pushed us and moved us in directions that we never thought we could be in Clarkdale. And we spend your money wisely because we look at how to invest in this town. That was the biggest accomplishment. Because understand, 4 years ago, I was elected under COVID. Okay? We were just coming out of that pandemic and just getting back into office, trying to do our work, and then we lost our town manager. And I had to be put into a different role of trying to hire a new town manager, and we hired the best, I will say that. So that's one of our biggest accomplishments. Getting Caballero Park rehabbed was absolutely wonderful. Purchasing 3 of the properties needed to get to get Centerville Road all the way through to 89A. We got that accomplished. We've purchased those, so we're going to be getting that road through as soon as we rehab the properties, and getting the money for the bridge to Bitter Creek, which is going to open up our industrial area for development. Those are our accomplishments.
Thank you. Cynthia?
I think one of the most important accomplishments is that the historic downtown bandstand is going to be preserved, not demolished and replicated. That would have been a disaster for this town. I also think it's really great, the land swap that allowed us to acquire Benaz Trail. That was pretty awesome. We were able to save Bitter Creek Bridge because the original plan was to tear it down and just replace it with a new bridge. So we preserved 2 of our historic buildings, and those were irreplaceable.
Thank you. We've now come to the time for closing statements from our candidates.
Thank you to the Greater Cottonwood Chamber of Commerce and the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. It's been a lot of fun and challenging. This forum has been an opportunity for you, the audience, to see and to hear the vision I have for our town. As I said in the beginning, I am proud to be your mayor. I am proud of how much we have accomplished over the past few years and the plans we have put into place for a continued growth as a thriving, vibrant, prosperous, and welcoming town for the future. I am very, very proud to call Clarkdale my home.
Thank you. Cynthia?
Maya Angelou, the poet Maya Angelou is credited with saying, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." If I'm privileged to being elected mayor by the citizens of Clarkdale, I will never forget who I work for and who I represent. I will do everything I can to foster a culture of transparency, integrity, and respect. Respect is shown first and foremost by listening to our history as a town and to each other, Transparency and integrity require effort, care, and focus. These are the attributes that must be the foundation of our pathway forward if we're to steer Clarkdale towards its brightest future. Whatever happens in this next election, the people of Clarkdale deserve and should expect transparency, integrity, respect from their elected representatives.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the candidates for their participation this evening and the audience for also being here and participating. A final reminder that Election Day for the primary is July 30th. The last day to register to vote or change your party registration update or update your address is today at 11:59. Ballots will be mailed, and the first day to file an early ballot is July 3rd. Completed ballots can be returned by mail or in the drop-in centers across the Verde Valley. Once again, thank you for participating, and voting is people power, so please use your power. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. You gonna be there next week?
We've already posted this morning campaign.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, we watched it, yeah. Next week should be interesting.